I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi, dude. That's still insane. Still going on. I'm still going through a tutorial, by the way. So, yeah. Wow, wow. Oh my gosh, mate. Damn it. I had to put my keyboard on my keyboard. Yeah. Yeah, and then you introduce to the game mode. What do you do there? Mhm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Viewport. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Okay, okay, okay. I hold on a second. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So Boolean integer flow, name string, text. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh boy. Mm-hmm. And that's variable. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Okay. So in Python, it'll be x equals. Wait, what? Oh no, I forgot Python. Oh damn it. No, it'll be x equals 4 and and well no, in our case it's gonna be x equals 0, and then we are going to have what, a for loop, for example, or while loop, and then within it we're gonna have x plus equals 1. Yes. No. Yes. No. Hmm. Yes. We'll end there and then print x, right? Let's just watch the
Once
video.
our logic here is complete, we can just compile this, and now we're going to basically bind this number to that counter variable. So what we can do now is we can just select that text, and also we can increase the size of this to cover the whole thing. Doesn't really matter, it just triggers my OCD. So with this selected, what we can do is we can go to our content, and where it says text, you're going to see this button next to it. This is basically the binding button.
To link it,
This,
okay, bind it.
it's going to take you to this completely different UI, and here what's going to happen is that whatever value
Yeah,
you do this,
okay.
that is the value that's going to be displayed. If that makes sense. So what you want to do essentially right now is you want to basically go inside this cube blueprint, and you want to get this counter variable, and then we want to just plug this into the return node. Now, how exactly do we do that? Because we can't, if you right click and say counter, get counter, set counter, we don't have access to any of those variables. Now, that is something very important because any variable that is inside one blueprint is not accessible by other blueprints by default. We need to make them accessible, and the way we do that is by using casting. So what we're going to do is that we're going to right click and we're going to say cast to cube. Cast to cube. If you do that, what this node will do is that it's going to give you access to the cube blueprint. And basically, once you have this node, if you drag off of as cube, you can pretty much do anything that you could do inside the cube blueprint. So you can say get counter, and you can see that we have get counter there. Without this node, you wouldn't be able to get the cube. And then we can just plug this into the return value, and it's going to add another node automatically because this variable type, the green one, is integer, but the return value is text. So that's another variable type. So it's going to convert it to text. So it's going to take the integer, convert it to text, and then it's going to display it. So if I just organize things correctly, I'm going to have to take this get text, plug it into this, and then plug this into the return node. So that's going to be the execution pins. Those are going to be the execution pins. That's going to be the sequence to execute things, essentially. And now we also need to plug something into this object. What we're going to do is that we're going to say get actor of class. Now, this is a bit confusing. You probably will find this a bit confusing, especially if you don't know object-oriented programming. I'm going to give you guys a quick explanation.
What are we doing? We're getting a variable so that the counter can go up. Okay.
It's perfectly fine. On a beginner level, you don't need to understand this. Just know that we have to do this. And eventually, it's going to make sense to you. Trust me. The reason why we do this is because this cube is a class. It's not an object. And this instance inside the game is an object. So we need to get that object of this class. Again, if that made no sense to you, it's perfectly fine. It is a bit complex. You don't need to understand it at a basic level. You will eventually understand it. Trust me. And yeah, we can just plug this in here and this in there because we need to access this node first and select class. We're going to set cube. Once we compile this, if we go back and play our game, now our logic should work. So if I go near the cube, it lights up. And also you can see on the top left-hand side, our counter is set to 1. Now if I go back, and if I go near it again, it's set to 2. So you can see that's how the logic works. And yeah, so that's how blueprints work. Now, I know that last part that was confusing, especially for a beginner. It is going to be confusing for you, but it's perfectly fine. As time goes on, you will definitely start to understand more of these things. So don't get demotivated if you don't understand it, and don't sort of like beat yourself over it. I feel like most people don't understand it when they start learning Unreal Engine 5. I personally didn't understand it at all. Like, the whole concept of casting was super complex for me, especially because I was like 14 when I was learning it. So yeah, it just fried my brain completely. I hope you guys understood at least something from this part. And I know it's complex. I know blueprints are slightly more complex than some of the other topics that we've been covering. But just trust me, it's going to get better with time. With that being said, let's move on to the next part.
The next part. Oh, no, 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 no. Please, no. Okay. Well, now get a new folder, I guess. Blueprints. And we, I guess, duplicate tab, right? Yeah. Just so you there. Cool. Well, I'm tired now. Let's get some headaches, I guess. We created a new map. So now let's try on packaging. Yeah, let's do some packaging. Reduce size. Let's go. And then, if not mistaken, we'll have this game. Yeah.
And a blank project can result in a package size of 321 megabytes for a shipping bill. However, there are many ways in which we can reduce the package size, and I spent an entire week running countless tests and made new discoveries you're not gonna find anywhere else. We're gonna start it with the rather obvious ones that most people should already know about.
Yeah. Serial binary configuration.
To make a build, I just go to Platforms, Windows, and here we can see the first important setting that most people and checked. But it's large from this will lead to a game build. They come with additional code that enables debugging features which we're not going to need in a finished game. Again, this is something most people should already know about, so 321 megabytes will be our starting point.
I'm actually gonna throw the video over here and make sure I have. Actually, I need Notion to take the notes open. No, we're going to take these notes in Excalibur actually, which means we're also going to need this one. We'll need Excalibur over here actually. Well, we can really. Oh no, we can do this. Awesome! I want to send you the video. Let's send you the video. Okay. And then we just use this as a big screen. Cool. And I cannot see my chat now. Great. Damn it. Yeah.
Will be our starting point. The next setting, however, is something most people don't know about, and it has a huge impact if you plan to release your game on Steam. In the shipping build I just created, I can go into Engine, Express, Redis, ENUS, and here I can see an executable for a prerequisite installer. That is 48.1 megabytes large. All application games require certain libraries to be installed to be able to run the game, and this prerequisite setup helps with that. So in case you want to distribute your game on itch.io or some other indie site, this can be very useful and should be included. However,
Yes.
They have their own process for installing prerequisites and will ignore this file anyway. In case you want to turn this off, you can go to Edit, Project Settings, and search for Prerequisite. Here, you want to uncheck Include Prerequisites Installer.
Okay. Okay. Edit. Project Settings. I mean, I guess it's gonna be packaging, right? Prerequisites installer. Did we do the shortcut? Oh, there we go. We do this one. Like this. Just do what we need, I guess. Like that, right? No, like that. Get a picture. Save it here. Oh my gosh, what is that? Oh, that's part of freaking obsidian. Yeah, sure, just like that. And then we need thing points. Nope. This one, this one, this one. Oh my gosh, I don't want to add text. Not yet, yeah. How do I add text? Oh, there we go. Enables comes with packages for installing in many OS. To Steam has its own packages. Only toggle off for Steam. Cool. Awesome. That's the first note. Check out me over PS. Nothing new. I mean, Twitch chat. Let's check the chat. Nothing new. Go on.
The next method can also have a huge impact on file size without a lot of work, and it involves plugins. Click on Edit, and plugins to open up the plugins window. On the right side, you can click on Settings and Show Only Enabled.
That's why ours is a bit bigger than yours. Because we don't have that. Bro, it's so laggy. Because we don't have that disabled. Actually, just 44 megabytes. That's nothing. Damn. Let's check a bit of chat. Nothing new. Nothing new, let's say. Okay.
Than our last build. The next method can also have a huge impact on file size without a lot of work, and it involves plugins. Click on Edit, and plugins to open up the plugins window. On the right side, you can click on Settings and Show Only Enabled. By default, Unreal Engine comes with a lot of plugins enabled that will increase your package size, even though you're probably not going to use them. Some of these are editor plugins that won't increase your package size, while others are runtime plugins that will have an impact. It's a bit hard to tell these apart, and there are also plugins that are critical for making Unreal Engine work properly, so it's not recommended to just turn everything off. But there are a couple we can turn off safely to make our package size about 50 megabytes small. The biggest one that is completely useless for games is the Open Image Denoise plugin. This is only used for video production when using a path tracer, and I believe 99.9% of Unreal Engine users will never need this. Back in one of our builds, we can go to Engine, Binaries, Win64, and see this Open Image Denoise DLL file, which is 47.4 megabytes large. We can get rid of this for our next build by simply unchecking the Open Image Denoise plugin and restarting the project. The new package build now is only 225 megabytes and 48 megabytes smaller than the last one. There are more plugins which we can turn off to make the package another 50 megabytes smaller, but that comes with certain risks. So I'll go over that in more detail during later sections of this video. There are also a lot of project settings we can easily change to make the package size slightly smaller. Some of these are the default now with newer
Right.
enabled. By default, Unreal Engine comes with a lot of plugins enabled that will increase your package size, even though you're probably not going to use them. Some of these are editor plugins that won't increase your package size, while others are runtime plugins that will have an impact. It's a bit hard to tell these apart, and there are also plugins that are critical for making Unreal Engine work properly, so it's not recommended to just turn everything off. But there are a couple we can turn off safely to make our package size about 50 megabytes smaller. The biggest one that is completely useless for games is the Open Image Denoise plugin. This is only used for video production when using a path tracer, and I believe 99.9% of Unreal Engine users will never need this.
Only used for video.
Back in one of for games is the Open Image Denoise plugin. This is only used for video production when using a path tracer, and I believe 99.9%.
Only used for video production. Online tracer. Keep it disabled. There we go. Next one.
Of Unreal Engine users will never need this. Back in one of our builds, we can go to Engine, Binaries, Win64, and see this OpenImage denoise DLL file, which is 47.4 megabytes large. We can get rid of this by simply unchecking the OpenImage denoise plugin and restarting the project. The new package built now is only 225 megabytes and 48 megabytes smaller than the last one. There are more plugins which we can turn off to make the package another 50 megabytes smaller, but that comes with certain risks. So I'll go over that in more detail during later sections of this video. There are also a lot of project settings we can easily change to make the package size slightly smaller. Some of these are the default now with newer versions of Unreal Engine, but it doesn't hurt to double check that they are active. Go to Edit and Project Settings, and then click on Packaging. First, we want to confirm that Use Pack file is active. This will package all game content into a single file and save some space. Next, we want to make sure that Share Material Shader Code and Shared Material Native libraries are active. This makes sure shader code isn't duplicated and saves up some space. There are more plugins which we can turn off to make the package another 50 megabytes smaller, but that comes with certain risks. So I'll go over that in more detail during later sections of this video. There are also project settings we can easily change to make the package size slightly smaller. Some of these are the default now with newer versions of Unreal Engine, but it doesn't hurt to double check that they are active. Go to Edit and Project Settings, and then click on Packaging. First, we want to confirm that Use Pack file is active. This will package all game content into a single file and save some space. Next, we want to make sure that Share Material Shader Code and Shared Material Native libraries are active. This makes sure shader code isn't duplicated and saves up some space. Next, click on Advanced and confirm that Create Compressed Code Packages is active. This one probably has the biggest impact on file size. The next couple of settings are not active by default and can help us reduce the size even more. Search for Exclude Editor Content.
Use Pack file. There we go.
Saves a few megabytes. This can cause issues with missing content. However, also a lot of project settings we can easily change to make the package size slightly smaller. Some of these are the default now with newer versions of Unreal Engine, but it doesn't hurt to double check that they are active. Go to Edit and Project Settings, and then click on Packaging. First, we want to confirm that Use Pack file is active. This will package all game content into a single file and save some space. Next, we want to make sure that Share Material Shader Code and Shared Material Native libraries are active. This makes sure shader code isn't duplicated.
Share Material Shader Code. Yep. There that is. Yep.
And saves up some space. Next, click on Advanced and confirm that Create
Advanced. Oh, language packages.
Compressed Code Packages.
Create. Oh my gosh, create compressed code packages.
Is active. This one probably has the biggest impact on file size. The next couple of settings are not active by default and can help us reduce the size even more. Search for Exclude Editor Content when
Alright, this one. Exclude code. No.
cooking. This will make sure the content
Exclude editor. Oh damn. Oh no. I don't know what I did.
from the editor folder is not included and saves a few megabytes.
Go with this one. Doo-doo. There you go. Damn it. I mean, we don't really need arrows, do we?
This can cause issues with missing content. However, you shouldn't use editor content in your game anyway. We can then search for full rebuild. Whenever we make a build, it's not included and saves a search for exclude editor content when cooking. This will make sure the content from the editor folder is not included and saves a few megabytes. This can cause issues with missing content. However, you shouldn't use editor content in your game anyway. We can then search for full rebuild. Whenever we make a build of a project, it will cache certain data to make the next build faster. However, if you make many changes, this could possibly lead to bugs and unused data being packaged. When you're just making test builds, deactivating this is fine. However, when making a final shipping build, you should activate this even if it leads to longer build times. The next settings won't have an effect on a completely empty build, but can save you multiple gigabytes if you've been working on your project for a while. By default, Unreal Engine will not only package all maps that exist in your game, but also all assets that are being referenced in any map. When you work with assets from the marketplace, they often come with demo maps that can blow up your package size to multiple gigabytes even though they're not used in your game. In the project settings, we can search for maps and scroll down to the project.
Okay, hold on.
Just a few megabytes. Gives up some space. Next, click on Advanced and confirm that Create Compressed Code Packages is active. This one probably has the biggest impact on file size. The next couple of settings are not active by default and can help us reduce the size even more. Search for exclude editor content when cooking. This will make sure the content from the editor folder is not included and saves a few megabytes. This can cause issues with missing content. However, you shouldn't use editor content in your game anyway. We can then search for full rebuild. Whenever we make a build of a project,
Sales, editor content, on packaging. Good.
cache certain data to make the next build faster.
Full rebuild. This next one. Awesome. Maybe don't have it full windowed. Yeah, I think this is gonna be better. Let's bring you here. Let's bring you here. Awesome. And oh my gosh, this is tiny. Yeah, that's fine.
Faster. However, if you make many changes, this could possibly lead to bugs and unused data being packaged. When you're just making test builds, deactivating this is fine. However, when making a final shipping build, you should activate this even if
editor content in your game anyway. We can then search for full rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we make a build of a project, it will cache certain data to make the next build faster. However, if you make many changes, this could possibly lead to bugs and unused data being packaged. When you're just making test builds, deactivating this is fine. However, when making a final shipping build, you should activate this even if it leads to longer build times. The next settings won't have an effect on a completely empty build, but can save you multiple gigabytes if you've been working on your project for a while. By default, Unreal Engine will not only package all maps that exist in your game.
Wait, what?
We can then search for full rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we make a build of a project, it will cache certain data.
If enabled, a full rebuild will be enforced each time the project is being packaged. If disabled, only modified files will be built, which can improve iteration time, unless you iterate on packaging, recommend full rebuilds when packaging.
To make the next build faster. However, exclude editor content when cooking. This will make sure that content from the editor folder is not included and saves a few megabytes.
Mm-hmm.
This can cause issues with missing content. However, you shouldn't use editor content in your game anyway. We can then search for full rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we make a build of a project, it will cache certain data to make the next build faster. However, if you make many changes, this could possibly lead to bugs and unused data being packaged. When you're just making test builds, deactivating this is fine. However, when making a final shipping build, you should activate this even if it leads to longer build times. The next settings won't have an effect on a completely.
Okay. Okay. Still don't understand it, but okay. Has to be included. Has to be checked when shipping package. Oh my gosh. Full release. Done.
Empty build, but can save you multiple gigabytes if you've been working on your project for a while. By default, Unreal Engine will not only package all maps that exist in your game, but also all assets that are being referenced in any map. When you work with assets from the marketplace, they often come with demo maps that can blow up your package size to multiple gigabytes even though they're not used in your game. In the project settings, we can search for maps and scroll down to the project packaging section. Under list of maps to include in a package build, we can specify exactly which maps we want to use in our game and only package those. For every map you want to package, you need to click on the plus icon and then search for the map file in your project folder. In my case, I only want the map empty. In addition, we also want to check cook-only maps. Keep in mind that you need to update this list whenever you not only package all maps that exist in your game, but also all assets that are being.
But for that we go to maps, right? Advanced. No. Maps. Yes. Project settings. No, I was still in packaging though. Okay. Because this project. Where are you? Packaging. Project packaging. Oh my gosh. Project. Wow. Oh, your configuration is different. Oh no way, we're still here. What? Let's close this one. And you. And you. To also close you. I think we close you as well. There we go. That's much better. Open if we close you. Everything closes. Okay. Custom builds. Packaging. Project. Build. Full rebuild. Full. Include prerequisites.
Package build, we can specify exactly which maps we want to use in our game and only package those. For every map you want to
where are you?
But can save you multiple gigabytes if you've been working on your project for a while. By default, Unreal Engine will not only package all maps that exist in your game, but also all assets that are being referenced in any map. When you work with assets from the marketplace, they often come with demo maps that can blow up your package size to multiple gigabytes even though they're not used in your game. In the project settings, we can search for maps and scroll down to the project packaging section. Under list of maps to include in a package build, we can specify.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Packaging, custom. It's gonna be in advanced, isn't it? Location targets chunk. This must include in the package what is specified on command line. Right? Okay. Well, we'll just use the search. List of maps to include.
Specify exactly which maps we want to use in our game and only project settings, we can search for maps and scroll down to the project packaging section. Under list of maps to include in a package build, we can specify exactly which maps we want to use in our game and only package those.
List of maps to include in package. To include. Damn. List all maps.
For every map you want to package, you need to click on the plus icon and then search for the map file in your project folder. In my case, I only want the map empty. In addition, we also want to check cook only maps. Keep in mind that
Whoa. Which one was that?
and then search for the map file in your project folder. In my case, I only want the map empty.
Okay.
In addition, we also want to check cook.
Okay, that's why we type maps. Okay. Cook only maps.
Only maps. Keep in
Okay.
mind that you need to update this list whenever you add new stages, otherwise your game will soft lock if you try to load a stage that isn't packaged in. When you
We need to include new stages, right? Not click this little thing every time.
package the project now, it ends up check cook only maps. Keep in mind that you need to update this list whenever you add new stages, otherwise your game will soft lock if you try to load a stage that isn't packaged in. When you package the project
You
now,
mean a
it's
level?
222 megabytes large, only 3 megabytes smaller than our last build. This is because most of the settings are active by default now and our project didn't have any useless maps packed in to begin with. But again, if you have
So in here, new one, maps, map blank. Screenshot. Here to here. There. Awesome. Paste. There we go. Oops. Let's try this now. Well, this one is an error, that's for sure. Bro, where is my... Oh, let's send it down here. Okay. Over here. Cool. Select plus. Oh my gosh. Nah. They changed my keyboard layout again. What the hell? Freaking Windows. What the heck? Did it update? I think it updated. That's why. Right? I have to change my keyboard language. Where is it? I'm missing personalization. What? Time and language. Language and region. What? Gosh, I have no idea what's going on though. What's my keyboard language? Bloody hell. Go. Damn you. Anyway, select plus to include another map. This avoids including any irrelevant irrelevant maps levels. Okay, cool. Oh, and then we also need to boom. Cool. I'm gonna do this with this and this. GG. We paste it. There we go. Whoop. Set a new arrow right here, I guess. No, there. No! What do you do to my arrow? There. Awesome. Awesome. Let's add some text.
An ongoing project packaging section under list of maps to include in a package build. Specify exactly which maps you want to use in our game and only package those. For every map you want to package, you need to click on the plus icon and then search for the map file in your project folder. In my case, I only want the map empty. In addition, we also want to check
Yep.
code-only maps. Keep in mind that you need to update this list whenever you add new stages, otherwise your game will soft lock if you try to load a stage that isn't packaged in. When we package the project now, it ends up being 222 megabytes large, only 3 megabytes smaller than our last build. This is because most of these settings are active by default now, and our project didn't have any useless maps packed in to begin with. But again, if you have an ongoing project, the impact of this might be much bigger. The next setting can save you around 10 megabytes, but it will also drastically change the way your game is being rendered. In Unreal Engine, we can choose between deferred rendering and forward rendering, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen and nanite, so you should only switch to that rendering mode if you really know what you're doing. Forward rendering is generally used for 2D games, mobile games, and VR games to boost performance. In my 2D game, for example, this gave me a performance increase of 7% on my laptop and 33% on the Steam Deck. In case you want to switch to forward rendering, go to Edit, Project Settings, and look for forward shading. Turn it on and restart the engine. When packaging the game now, it is 211 megabytes large, which is 11 megabytes smaller than the last build. All of the methods I've shown you so far are more or less risk-free, and I believe most projects could benefit from applying them to easily cut down about 100 megabytes of package size. We can still
Another video we have to include here, it's the Unreal Engine 2D tutorial, the very first one the Cover Code did. Oh, he's got a new one. Oh, okay. Maybe on this one it shows how to optimize it while also preserving the forward rendering settings, you know. Okay. New file, save all. And now let's do the annoying one. Oh, it's already enabled?
My 2D game, for example, this gave me a performance increase of 7% on my laptop, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen and nanite, so you should only switch to that rendering mode. 2 megabytes large, only 3 megabytes smaller than our last build. This is because most of these settings are active by default now, and our project didn't have any useless maps packed in to begin with. But again, if you have an ongoing project, the impact of this might be much bigger. The next setting can save you around 10 megabytes, but it will also drastically change the way your game is being rendered. In Unreal Engine, we can choose between deferred rendering and forward rendering, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen useless maps packed in to begin with. But again, if you have an ongoing project, the impact of this might be much bigger. The next setting can save you around 10 megabytes, but it will also drastically change the way your game is being rendered. In Unreal Engine, we can choose between deferred rendering and forward rendering, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen and nanite, so you should only switch to that rendering mode if you really know what you're doing. Forward rendering is generally used for 2D games, mobile games, and VR games to boost performance. In my 2D game, for example, this gave me a performance increase of 7% on my laptop and 33% on the Steam Deck. In case you want to switch to forward rendering, go to Edit, Project Settings, and look for forward shading. Turn it on and restart the engine. When packaging the
Okay. Forward shading. Let's see. Oh my gosh, what is going on?
mobile games and VR games to boost performance. In my 2D game, for example, this gave me a performance increase of 7% on my laptop and 33% on the Steam Deck. In case you want to switch to forward rendering, go to Edit, Project Settings, and look for forward shading. Turn it on and restart the engine.
Okay. Okay. And then comes the plugins, right? Benefits small size, yeah, and then the plugins. Okay, so that's step one. Now, let's try and do step two, which is going to be, let's choose this arrow, and then let's enforce. No, how did you use these arrows? Let's enforce this way, this way, this way, this way. Enter. Awesome. Let's do some text. Enable this to disable to boost performance for mobile consoles and 2D games. Yes. Performance by 7%. Enable this by 7% for mobile consoles and 2D games. Awesome. I'll close it anyway.
Huge impact if you plan to release your game on Steam. In the shipping build I just created, I can go to engine,
Forward shading.
what you're doing. Forward rendering is generally used for 2D games, mobile games, and VR games to boost performance. In my 2D game, for example, you should only switch to that rendering mode if you really know what you're doing. Forward might be much bigger. The next setting can save you around 10 megabytes, but it will also drastically change the way your game is being rendered. In Unreal Engine, we can choose between deferred rendering and forward rendering, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen and nanite, so you should only switch to that rendering mode if you really know what you're doing. Forward rendering is generally used for 2D games, mobile games, and VR games to boost performance. Change the way your game is being rendered. In Unreal Engine, we can choose between deferred rendering and forward rendering, with deferred rendering being active by default. Forward rendering will disable a lot of cutting-edge features such as lumen and nanite, so you should only...
Okay. Where are my notes? By default, deferred rendering is on. Allows use of nanite and lumen. For mobile 2D and VR games, change it to what was it? Oh no, what was it? Forward shading. Forward shading. Deferred rendering. Mods and games change to forward shading. To boost performance by 7%. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Oh my gosh, what is going on? What are you doing, bro? Okay. Then restart. Right? There. What benefit do this? Nothing. What the hell? No! What are you doing? My god, no! Silly ass arrow. There. And we do. Then restart editor. Okay. Awesome. Let's do the next one. Why isn't related? Huh? Oh, you're already running. No, my level. What the hell? Precedence. Maps and modes. Map blank. GG. Fire. Open level. Map blank. How can we delete that? Because it's still inside the engine. I'm gonna guess it's still want to. Oh no, because when we export it, it's not gonna include that level, right? Let's hope not. Let's hope everything is working like it should. Okay. So we did that. Now let's do how to package. Oh no, wait, no, then yeah, because the next steps are plugins. For that we'll do some versioning so we can, test it properly.
This video will show you how to package your game in Unreal Engine 5. First, go to Platforms, then click on Packaging Settings. We want to set the build configuration to shipping. This will be used for the full release of your game. Next, you want to go over to Full Rebuild. If you're packaging the full release of your game,
Packaging. Platforms. Packaging. My gosh, my gosh.
This video will show you how to package your game in Unreal Engine 5.
Alright, let's go.
First, go to Platforms, then click on Packaging Settings.
Yes.
We want to set the build configuration to shipping.
Yes. Build config. We should switch it to shipping test. Oh damn. Zoom. Okay. I'll need to split this off. Like that. Like that. Awesome. Okay. Cool. There we go. Set a little arrow. Should we don't really need an arrow, do we? But whatever. Choose shipping.
This video will show you how to package your game in Unreal Engine 5. First, go to Platforms, then click on Packaging Settings. We want to set the build configuration to shipping. This will be used for the full release of your game. Next, you want to go over to Full
Choose shipping for the full release of the game.
Rebuild. If you're packaging the full release of your game, you want to set this to true. Next, under Project, click on Description. You want to change your project name to the
Description. Project name. Template. Okay. Whew. Really? Okay. Template. Version 1. Cool. Oh, this is gone. Damn it. Oh, snap. No. Okay. Select. I'll change just the template. There we go. There we go. Change the project name.
to Full Rebuild. If you're packaging the full release of your game, you want to set this to true. Next, on the project, click on Description. You want to change your project name to the title of the game you're making. Next, go to Maps and Modes. Here you want to change the game default map to the first.
Change the project name to the name of the game you are making.
Level you want to open when the player starts the game. In most cases, you'll want this to be your main menu level. Next, scroll down to the
Right, yep. Over here.
platform set. Here you want to change the game default map to the first level you want to open when the player starts the game. In most
Okay, so here in this case, you're gonna need what, 2 of these? Yeah. There we go, just like that. And then one. Oh no, we added another arrow. Okay, there we go. Choose the first map. Usually main menu. Usually map main menu.
Cases you'll want this to be your main menu level. Next, scroll down to the platform section. Here you can see all
Oh gosh, platforms.
the different platforms that you can package your game to. For the sake of this video, we're just going to focus on Windows. So click Windows, then you want to set your game splash.
And what are they started shaded formats? They targeted shaded formats. Who can targeted shaded? Wow. Okay.
Image. This is the image that appears when the game is first
Wait, is this my graphics card? Nah.
starting up. I recommend using a 1920 by 1080 resolution for this image. Wait a second, then you'll get a pop-up which will allow you to import this image into the project.
Wait, I can't really shrink this, can I? Okay. Bruh. It's annoying. Boom. It's a massive image. It's insane. Okay, so we have you. We have you as well. We have. Oh, never mind. I'm doing this one. No, no. What did I do? No. We have you right there, and remove you. Include you here, and change. First, change. Game loading image. Okay. Icon of the app shown in Explorer. Cool.
Next, we want to add a game icon. This is the image used for the game file. For example, if you had it on the desktop, this is what you would see. For this image, you have to use an ICO file type. You can easily convert the image you want to use to an ICO using this website, which I've linked in the description. Make sure this first drop-down is set to the file type of your image, and the second drop-down needs to be set to ICO. Next,
Okay. Oh, cloud convert.
recommended by Unreal. Next, click select file and locate your image. Once you've done this, click convert. Then you can click download. Now that you have your ICO image, go back to Unreal, then next to game icon.
16 by 16, right?
This is the resolution recommended by Unreal. Next, click select file.
Oh no,
Once you click
256.
to 256. This is the resolution recommended by Unreal.
I guess it's pixels, right? I guess so. Ensure it's 256 by 256. Dot icon. Use the cloud convert website. Okay, cool.
Next, click select file and locate your image.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've done this, click convert.
Mm-hmm.
The final thing we need to do before packaging the game is build all the levels, which includes building all the lighting. Go back to the viewport, go to build, and then build all levels.
Oh, that's it? Cool. Build.
If you get this pop-up, click build HLODs, then click save selected. How long this takes to build depends on how complex your game is and how many lights you have. Finally, to package.
Okay, build on levels. With a screenshot. Oh, there we go. Thank you. That is tiny. Bro, that is tiny. What the hell? There.
The game, but is build all the levels, which includes building all the lighting. Go back to the viewport, then go to build, and then build all levels. If you get this pop-up, click build HLODs, then click save selected. How long this takes to build depends on how complex your game is and how many lights you have.
This depends on how many levels you have and lights. The time it takes depends on how many levels you have and lights.
Finally, to package the game, go to Platforms, then Windows. Make sure the Use Project settings are selected, which you can see has the shipping in brackets. Select Package Project, then choose the file where you want your game to build.
Cool. Build. We're not going to do it just yet. Platforms. Windows. Wait. Package. G. Boom. Paste. Boom. There. Boom. Increase the size. Actually, we want a freaking arrow here. Choom, choom, pew, pew, awesome. Begin packaging. Done.
Then click Select Folder. Now your project will start to package. If you click Go
Awesome.
Out the log, here you'll be able to see if you have any issues or errors with the building process. If you have any issues, it will tell you what they are, and you'll have to go back and fix them before trying to package your game again. How long this takes depends on whether you've packaged your game before and how big the game is. Once this is complete, you can exit out of your project and locate the file where you packaged your game to.
The time it takes depends whether you've packaged your game before or how many levels you have.
Able to see if you have any issues or errors with the building process. If you have any issues, it will tell you what they are, and you'll have to go back and fix them before trying to package your game again. How long this takes depends on whether you've packaged your game before and how big the game is. Once this is complete, you can exit out of your project and locate the file where you packaged your game to. To open your game, double-click on the exe file. Usually this is where you'd see the splash screen, but my game file is so small that it loaded instantly.
No. Wait, I could just do that. Package game before and how big it is. Oh, the game.
Package your game again. How long this takes depends on whether you've packaged your game before and how big the game is.
Why am I doing this word by word?
Once this is complete, you can exit out of your project and locate the file where you packaged your game to. To open your game, double-click on the exe file. Usually this is where you'd see the splash screen, but my game file is so small that it loaded instantly. You should now have a fully packaged game which is ready for release. If this video helped you, please feel free to like and subscribe or support me on Patreon so that I can keep making these Unreal Engine tutorials. Thank you so much for watching.
Awesome. That's that done. Now we need to go to YouTube and let's go to cover code. Whoops. There we go. I search videos. Making a JRPG. This one. No. Yeah, 5 in 2025. Oh, that's not a tutorial though. That's just. Okay. So they making 2D top down Unreal Engine in 5 minutes. Trying to get the game to Inspire, high res, 2D. 2D games Unreal. Huh. Is it the same workflow as 5 minutes to Inspire? How does it go? 500 games to motivation. motivation, 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 hidden to the tools, and motivation. Can books you must read and make to the top down. Day one, what's the time? Oh snap. Oh snap, it's about to be 2 hours and we have what, how long do we have? Let's see. And this one. 5 hours left. Okay, we have 3 hours left. Okay, after this I'm gonna buy some food. I have some. I'm going to have some dinner. Then I'll be back. What? In the meantime, I wanna watch. After I have dinner, I just wanna arrive here and just start working on Unreal. So yeah, that'll be amazing. So let's device version control. Oh, that's really interesting. Actually, oh, we should be like. Shouldn't be opening new tabs, I guess. 5 games only hidden to the tools to include that. We didn't. No, it's just not supposed to package inside. We already did that. We just need that tutorial though. And this one. Okay. Well, I was. This is bad. Oh no.
Backing up your files through version control is extremely important when developing games. This will allow you to back up on the cloud, create commits you can roll back when something goes wrong, and to collaborate with other developers in your team. So
Oh,
for games has been quite problematic since
it's not incorporated.
handling large binary data such as textures, 3D models, and view asset files. And the free tier for GitHub and GitLab have strong limitations on the repository size or the amount of members in your team. AAA development Perforce is often used, however, it's not very accessible to individuals and small teams. The brand new version control system I want to show you today is called Diversion, and it solves all of those issues and offers a bunch of cool features on top of that. The free tier gives you a generous 100 gigabytes of included storage, up to 10 team members, and 10 repositories. Some of the developers on the Diversion team are actually viewers on my channel and invited me to the early beta version a couple of months ago. Even back then, I already felt like Diversion was superior to the other options and liked it so much I offered to create this tutorial. And they were nice enough to sponsor this video, so this tutorial is brought to you by Diversion. You can check out their version control system from the link in the description and make use of the generous free tier. There you can also find a link to Discord where they can help you if you run into any problems using Diversion. Now let's get into an actual example of how easy it is to set this up for version control. This will work similarly regardless of if you're using Unity, Godot, or Unreal Engine, but I'll use Unreal for demonstration. First, we go to diversion.dev and click on Get Started. Here you can simply use a Google account to log in or create a new account with an email address. After that, you get this welcome screen, which allows you to create a new repository, but we can just skip this for now and download the Diversion desktop client. Depending on what operating system you're on, the install process is slightly different, but I guess Windows, so we can download the Windows installer. Once it's downloaded, we can just double-click the executable file. Click on Next, read through the license agreement, and click on Agree. Decide if you want to have it in the start menu or not, and then click on Install. This will install the command line interface and their desktop app as well. After the installation is finished, the desktop client will open up and you'll have to log in again with your credentials. Now I want to create a new repository, and if you're new to version control, a repository is basically just our tracked folder with our entire history. Click here on the repository on the right, and we have two options available. We can just create a new repository in a new folder, and just put in a name and select where we want to save it. But I believe create from an existing folder is actually more streamlined when it comes to making games. We can create a new project in Unity, Unreal, or Godot, and then just put Diversion into that existing folder. To do that, I'll just create a new third-person project from Unreal Engine to use for the demonstration. And I'm just going to call Diversion Test and create. Now that we have a project, we can go back to the Diversion desktop app. Now we can select it from create from existing folder and wait for it to initialize the repository. You can see that it's currently syncing and it is already uploading the files to the cloud. To view the repository, we can just click on View Repo at the bottom here, and it already created a workspace and a branch automatically for us. The workspace is basically what we locally have on our PC, but it will also be synced to the cloud, and this is something special with Diversion, which opens up a lot of doors for new functionality. The branch is something everybody in your team will be able to access, and you can create multiple branches. But for now, we just need to have one of each, and it already created these for us. You can see by creating a new repository, it already made an initial commit for us, and we can click on History to see what happened here. The initial commit only created a dv-ignore file, and this is the counterpart to the git-ignore file, which we need to specify which files we don't want to upload and track. This already comes predefined for Godot, Unity, and Unreal Engine, and it already knows which are temporary files that you really don't need to track. And this makes it very easy to get started because you don't have to set this up by yourself. Now we can go back to Workspace, and we want to commit all of the files for the project as well. We can simply click here to select all of the paths, and we want to upload all of this data and track it. And for the commit message, we can just type create third-person template and click on commit. Now, since the workspace is already synced to the cloud, committing is extremely fast, and it's over in a couple of seconds. And now we can click on history, and you can see that our commit is already here. It is available for everybody else that is working on our same branch. And as you can see, since we have the dv-ignore file, we only uploaded all of the necessary files. There's no temporary files, there's no saved, and we only have the stuff we really need. Now that the repository is set,
that's a crazy one.
For example, in the third-person character, I'm just going to make a change that we can track. So just in the beginning, after begin play, at the end, I'm just going to put a print string to demonstrate, and just say started. Compile and save. And now if we open up Diversion again, we can see that there's one path modified. And here we see the entire folder structure, but if you're familiar with the GitHub desktop, this change list view is actually more similar to that, and you can see all of the files that changed. And we want to apply this to the commit, so we can just check it, make sure it's active, and just say add print string, and commit it. And again, commit, it's going to be super fast because it's already synced to the cloud. And in history, it is now showing up the add print string. And something that happens like game development is that you make mistakes and you have to go back on them. So I'm just going to delete a couple of things here and make sure to save all. And I now want to save this new stage. So back in Diversion, I can just select all of the paths and just modify stage. and commit this. And now the next day when I start the game, I notice that something is broken and I want to go back to the last commit, the last checkpoint. Since a recent update, we can also do reverts from the desktop app, but I want to take this opportunity to show you how the command line interface works and do it that way. In the projects folder, we can just right click, and on Windows, open a terminal. If you're Mac or Linux, it's probably going to be a different prompt. And here I can just type DV to open up the shell. And as opposed to Git, it actually gives you the commands at the bottom. You can use the arrow keys to navigate here, and it gives you all the possible commands you can use, just like on your own. And what we are looking for is, we look for revert. Here, so you can see revert the changes made in a commit. So after I select revert, I can just press on space, and it shows me the I have.
Oh, but then it only uses it's not an application then. But you just installed the dependencies it needs from the terminal.
We can see that the last changes we made got rolled back, and we fixed our mistakes. Right here, the stage is back up. I can play again, and everything is working fine. And now you can just continue working on your game. You know that if you make mistakes, you go back to the state. But most likely you're not going to work on the project alone, and you want to invite some other members. So let's also check that out. To do that, click on the home button, and here on the Diverge Desk repository, click on the cogwheel icon, and here you can just type in email address of the members you want to invite. We can also specify if they can read, write, or are an admin, and in general, you just want to say can write for contributors. And click on send invite. On my other PC, I can click on clone repo to download the data. Now on my desktop PC, I just made a couple of adjustments to the level design. And back on my laptop, it automatically downloaded this change without me having to click on pull like you have to do in GitHub Desktop. This will always work automatically unless there are merge conflicts. And now if I open the project again, I have to change the flag which my other team member, in this case my desktop PC, made in the last commit. Something that can often be a big problem with game development though are merge conflicts. For example, if two people at the same time update the same C++ file, we might be able to merge it without any conflicts. However, binary data like blueprints cannot easily be merged, so we are not allowed to update the same blueprint on two different PCs at the same time. And Divergent has a nice feature to prevent merge conflicts before they even happen. Now on my desktop PC, I made some simple changes to the third-person character blueprint, and I'm not going to commit those changes yet. They're only in my local workspace and synced to my workspace in the cloud, but not on the main branch yet. And even then, back on my laptop, Divergent will know that somebody else changed this file. So I can just go here to content and look for this file, third person, blueprints, and you can see this purple warning. It's telling me that somebody else is working on this file currently and made changes to it that are not committed yet. If you click on it, it's actually going to give you some more information on who is working on it. So to prevent merge conflicts before they even happen, you could then talk to your team member and figure out who's supposed to work on what, and you might work on a different task until they're done and committed their changes. Divergent also has a free Unreal Engine plugin that is currently in beta. Using a version control plugin directly inside of Unreal Engine comes with some benefits such as a detailed overview of blueprint changes and doing commits without having to leave Unreal. To install it, just go to the Unreal Engine Marketplace and look for Divergent. Then click on free to add it to your account. After that, click on install to engine and select whichever Unreal Engine version you plan on using. In my case, it's 5.4. Now if you open up the third person project we created before, we can click on edit, go to plugins, and here also look for Divergent. Click on check to activate it, and then restart the project. To activate it, there's one more step. On the bottom right, we can click on revision control. Then click on connect to revision control. Create a commit, we can just add a print.
Oh, that's insane. This is pictures for the version go. Okay, hold on. This is pretty incredible. This is really insane. So this for you. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Okay, well, we're saving that. For what? I don't know for what, but we're saving it. I was
know that Unreal Engine has
really
tools for 2D and 2.5D games which help you speed up development immensely. I'm not talking about Paper 2D or Paper ZD as a whole, which if you've been following this channel, you should know plenty about already, but I am talking about a hidden feature set which even after 2D games in Unreal for about 3 years, I only stumbled upon recently.
I want to organize these tabs by... It's not really gonna show it though. Damn it. By the oldest first. Oh no, wait. It's already organized like that, isn't it? I don't know. Let's just go.
It doesn't matter if you're making a 2D game, a 2D 3D hybrid, or a 2.5D game using 3D models. These tools will help you position your actors correctly by providing snap layers and a new translate plus rotate gizmo. And I've also thrown one extra tweak at the end, which you probably also don't know about.
Oh damn.
Games that take place on only 2 axes is that we need to make sure that everything is placed on the same lane or layer. Otherwise, you might run into problems such as an enemy or gimmick being positioned incorrectly and being unable to interact with the player. If you're making a side scroller, your game will use the red x-axis and the blue z-axis, while everything gameplay related should be locked to the same position on the y-axis. In a top-down game, on the other hand, you'll use the x and y-axis, while the z-axis should always be the same. And by using 2D layer tools, we can easily snap everything to the same position with the click of a single button. To turn on these tools in the first place, we need to go to the project settings, scroll down to the editor section, and select 2D. Here we want to enable snap layers. By default, we use Y as the snap axis, which is correct.
But then that's what? What? Where was it? 2D, right? Oh damn. Okay. Oh damn. No. Oh damn. Oh, dude, that's insane. You see, that's why winning all these ones. Gosh.
If you're making a top-down game, then you want to use the z-axis instead. And you can see that by default we have 3 different snap layers, the foreground, default, and the background, with a depth value of 100, 0, and -100 respectively. This allows you to place everything gameplay related on the default lane, but still place visual elements in the foreground or background. You could of course adjust the depth value to your liking and could even add more custom layers here if you need to. Now back on the map, you should be able to see this button for the layers. Here you can select which of your layers you want to activate, and I'll pick default. You can then select any actor and click on snap to 2D layer to instantly adjust the Y position of this actor. Of course, you can also select multiple actors by holding shift or control, and then set the position for all of them at once, making sure they're all on the same lane. And again, this saves you the tedious process of manually copy and pasting the Y position, and prevents bugs with some actors not being on the correct lane. But I do believe a very important feature of this is broken. When clicking clicking this left magnet icon, we can activate auto snapping, and I do believe if we drag any actor around and let go, this should automatically snap it to our layer. But for me, nothing happens if I have this on or off, and I always have to manually click on snap to 2D layer. I suspect that this worked in older versions of Unreal, but broke at some point and nobody bothered to fix it, given that this is a rather well-hidden feature. Please let me know in the comments if the auto snapping is also broken for you or if it's an issue on my part. Of course, these layer tools also work in top-down games, as I've mentioned before. In that case, the snap axis will need to be changed to Z, and you can then use the tools in the same way to position your actors. By the way, this game you're seeing right now is one of the 3 awesome games I'll teach you how to create in my brand new Unreal 2D top-down course, which doesn't only cover 2D games, but also awesome looking 2D 3D hybrid RPGs. Please check the discount link in the description to get it. But just snapping the actors in the correct position in the beginning might not be enough for 2D and 2.5D games. Even if you start on the correct lane, you could get pushed off by physics or other interactions. This is something I've talked about before, but on the
Yeah, but then
component
you
object
just
blueprint,
disable the current movement. Exactly.
constraint normal, set the axis you want to lock to 1.0 to activate it. In a side scroller, this means you have a plane constraint normal of 0, 1, and 0. And for a top-down game, it would be 0, 0, and 1 to lock the correct axis. This makes sure that no matter what happens, your actor will always be locked to that lane. So it's something you want to use to complement our layer snapping settings. Another hidden feature I want to show is the combined translate plus rotate widget, which we can again find in the project settings, editor, and 2D section. Just turn this on, and you should now be able to select and translate or rotate objects in 2D. This is just a very small quality of life upgrade, but the gizmo allows you to move and rotate the character in 2D space without having to switch between modes and without the risk of pulling it into a different lane accidentally. And to close things out, I have one more tip that works great together with the tools we've covered so far. This is mostly useful for making pure 2D games rather than 2.5D games or 3D hybrids, but making edits to your stage can be very hard when you're flying around in the default perspective view. For side scrollers, you want to click on perspective and then select the right view. This will default you to the wireframe view mode, but you can just switch back to the lit or unlit mode. For top-down games, you want to use the top view
Wait,
and
what?
then to lit or unlit mode. This allows you to move the
Damn
camera
it.
around simply by right-clicking and drag the character in 2D space without having to switch between modes and without. This means you have a plane constraint always be locked to that.
Yep,
So it's
constraint to
something we want
plane.
to complement our layer snapping settings.
See
Another
now?
feature I want to show is the combined translate plus rotate widget, which we can again find in the project settings, editor, and 2D section. Just turn this on, and you should now be able to select. This makes sure that no matter what happens, your actor will always be locked to that lane. So it's something you want to use to complement our layer snapping settings. Another
Yep.
hidden feature I want to show is the combined translate plus rotate widget, which we can again find in the project settings,
Mhm.
editor, and 2D section. Just turn this on, and you should now be able to select and translate or rotate objects in 2D. This is just a very small quality of life upgrade, but the gizmo allows you to move and rotate the character in 2D
Nice.
space without having to switch between modes and without the risk of pulling it into a different lane accidentally. And to close things out, I have one more tip that works great together with the tools we've covered so far. This is mostly useful for making pure 2D games rather than 2.5D games or 3D hybrids, but making edits to your stage can be very hard when you're flying around in the default perspective view. For side scrollers, you want to click on perspective and then select the right view. This will default you to the wireframe view mode, but you can just switch back to the lit or unlit mode. For top-down games, you want to use the top view and then also go to lit or unlit mode. This allows you to move the camera around simply by right-clicking and dragging around, and makes it super easy to position actors using our layers and the translate and rotate gizmo. I hope these tips will speed up your 2.5D game development.
Oh,
For
right.
top-down games in Unreal, check out
Yeah.
the link in the description.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, that's a good for setup to these. It's not necessarily how we're gonna have our main template, you know.
For 2D games, since they believe it doesn't perform well and it's hard to hit your frame rate target. But what if I told you that I got this blueprint-only Unreal Engine 2D game running at around 440 frames per second on my laptop and 370 FPS on the Steam Deck without putting a lot of effort into optimization? In this video, I'll show you how I achieved this, in what scenarios high FPS like this is beneficial, and we'll also check out how many frames per second some Unreal Engine 2D games on Steam can achieve. But just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'll give you a quick primer on how frames per second affect the games we create. The frame rate or FPS simply means how many images are being generated or shown on the screen per second. If we have high FPS, the game on this. There are certain genres that rate it's basically a load. The rumors are true. We don't have to worry about it much longer. Let's get into the actual settings and how I was able to achieve such a high frame rate with Unreal Engine. When using the default project settings,
Alright,
the result was
let's go.
better than I expected, but all in all, not that impressive. I was able to run the game at around 320 FPS on my computing resources, 30% on my laptop. Lumen is mostly geared toward next-gen consoles and high-end PCs, and I believe it doesn't even work properly on Steam Deck anyway, so there's no point in keeping this up. The new next-gen lighting system with Unreal Engine 5. I also changed the reflection method from Lumen to none. This alone led to performance increase of around 30% on my laptop, making the. Let's get into the actual settings and how I was able to achieve such a high frame rate with when using the default project settings. The result was already better than I expected, but all in all, not that impressive. I was able to run the game at around 320 FPS on my powerful laptop and around 165 FPS on the Steam Deck. But since we only really need to hit a stable 60 frames, this would have already been enough to make Unreal Engine a valid.
Wait a second. Does he changes all these tiny settings and then he changes the shading, the rendering shading, so that way it doesn't blur out and he can easily do it?
Since the end user won't notice a difference anyway.
Okay.
At this point, I still had a lot of unnecessary features turned on that won't benefit 2D games anyway and only use up computing resources. I turned off Lumen and global
Illumination. Global illumination. Oh here, illumination. Global oh my gosh, we ate so many words. Illumination. There it is. Use Lumen Global FLR right time assist requires generate mesh distance fields enable for software ray tracing and software hardware ray tracing. Which yes, it's disabled. Right?
illumination altogether, which is the new next-gen lighting system with Unreal Engine 5. I also changed the reflection method from Lumen to none. This alone led to performance increase of around 30% on my laptop, making the game run at around 410 FPS instead of 320. On Steam Deck, the difference is even greater, and it led to a 75% performance increase. The game now ran at around 285 FPS instead of 165. Lumen is mostly geared toward next-gen consoles and high-end.
Okay, let's see. We need to do forward shading. We'll do this and restart. Hold the thought. restart. Let's go.
And I believe it doesn't even work properly on Steam Deck anyway, so there's no point in keeping this on. We can take things a step further though with one really simple setting. In the project settings, we can activate forward shading. This will change from the deferred rendering model to forward rendering.
What?
Forward rendering can be more performed in many cases. R65. Lumen, there are features turned on that won't or even enough to make Unreal Engine a
Oh
choice
gosh.
since the end user won't notice a difference anyway. However, at this point I still had a lot of unnecessary features turned on that won't benefit 2D games anyway and only use up computing resources. I turned off Lumen and global illumination altogether, which is the new next-gen lighting system with Unreal Engine 5. I also changed the reflection method from Lumen to none. This alone led to a performance increase of around 30% on my laptop, making the game run at around 410 FPS instead of 320. On Steam Deck, the difference is even greater and it led to a 75% performance increase. The game now ran at around 285 FPS instead of 165. Lumen is mostly for next-gen consoles and high-end PCs, and I believe it doesn't even work properly on Steam Deck anyway, so there's no point in keeping this on. We can take things a step further though with one really simple setting. In the project settings, we can activate forward shading. This will change from the deferred rendering model to forward rendering. Forward rendering can be more performed in many cases, but if you use a lot of transparency and reflections, there can be issues. For our 2D game, however, this is necessary and gave us another big performance boost. On my laptop, I went from 410 FPS with deferred rendering to 440 FPS, which is a 7% increase. Again, on the Steam Deck, this effect is a lot more obvious, and we went from 285 FPS with deferred rendering to about 380 FPS with forward rendering. This is a performance increase of about 33% and puts us way above our target of 60 FPS. Outside of the rendering and Lumen settings, there are also many other small project and post-processing settings you want to adjust. Some of these have minor influence on the performance, but more so than that, they will prevent visual artifacts and make sure these bright colors aren't washed out. I wrote a cheat sheet with all of these settings, which you can use as a reference whenever you make 2D games in Unreal Engine. In one of my Udemy courses, I also teach how to make a 2D action platformer, and we actually go over these steps when setting up the project. You can check both of these resources from the links in the description. So at this point, we've already proven that you can make Unreal Engine viable for 2D games by only putting a couple of minutes into finding the optimal project settings. But there is much more you could do to optimize your games and make them run even better. However, these are things you do at a later time during the development process. So I just want to bring up a couple of 2D Unreal Engine games created by other developers that are nicely optimized and serve as an example of what is possible. The Unreal 2D game I found that runs at the highest frame rate is Guntastic. This is a simple party game which runs at around 430 FPS during combat on the Steam Deck, but goes all the way up to 600 FPS sometimes when not much is happening on the screen. And Release is a critically acclaimed bestseller Metroidvania made with Unreal Engine 4. It can run it up to 330 FPS on the Steam Deck, and even on the Nintendo Switch, it runs at 60 FPS for the most part. When it comes to 2D 3D hybrid games, Octopath Traveler 2 is a shining example. This game runs at around 100 FPS on the Steam Deck on high graphics settings and goes all the way up to 120 FPS with low graphics settings. On my laptop, I usually run it at a capped 120 FPS since even though for the 2D animations it doesn't make much sense to run at more than 60 FPS, since this is a 2D hybrid, particle effects and camera movement will look smoother at high frame rates. This game is also available on the Nintendo Switch, however, since it's quite graphically intense, it is locked at 30 FPS. And this is quite common for the Nintendo Switch even for non-Unreal Engine games. I believe this should give you a good overview of how performant Unreal Engine can actually be for 2D and 2D 3D hybrid games. If you want.
Okay. So yeah, pretty much just the same as that previous tutorial. But he's gonna link the come on, right up of best settings. Yeah, awesome. Let's open it up. Notion.
I wrote a cheat sheet with all of these settings which you can use as a reference whenever you make 2D games in Unreal
Badass.
Engine. How to make a 2D action platformer, and we actually go over these steps when setting up the project. You can check both of these resources from the links in the description. So at this point, we've already proven that you can make Unreal Engine viable for 2D games by only putting a couple of minutes into finding the optimal project settings. But there is much more you could do to optimize your games and make them run even better. However, these are things you do at a later time during the development process. So I just want to bring up a couple of 2D Unreal games by other developers that are nicely optimized and serve as an example of what is possible. The Unreal 2D game I found that runs at the highest frame rate is Guntastic. This is a simple party.
What are those games?
But goes all the way up to 600 FPS sometimes when not much is happening on the screen. And Release is a critically acclaimed bestseller Metroidvania made with Unreal Engine 4. It can run it up to 330 FPS on the Steam Deck, and even on the Nintendo Switch, it runs at 60 FPS for the most part. When it comes to 2D 3D hybrid games, Octopath Traveler 2 is a shining example. This game runs at around 100 FPS on the Steam Deck on high graphics settings and goes all the way up to 120 FPS with low graphics settings. On my laptop, I usually run it at a capped 120 FPS since even though for the 2D animations it doesn't make much sense to run at more than 60 FPS, since this is a 2D 3D hybrid, particle effects and camera movement will look smoother at high frame rates. This game is also available on the Nintendo Switch, however, since it's quite graphically intense, it is locked at 30 FPS. And this is quite common for the Nintendo Switch even for non-Unreal Engine games. I believe this should give you a good overview of how performant Unreal Engine can actually be for 2D and 2D 3D hybrid games. If you want to know about even more successful 2D games made with Unreal Engine, I recommend that you check out this video.
No. Okay. So again, he just changed Lumen, global illumination, but then went straight into changing forward shading.
This will change from the default rendering model to forward rendering. Forward rendering can be more performed in
And that's pretty much all the settings.
Some of these have minor influence on the performance, way above our target of 60.
Yeah. And then he just
I wrote a cheat sheet with all of these settings which you can use as a reference whenever you make 2D games in Unreal Engine.
call that cheat. Yeah. Okay. So that's that from that one. Yeah, that's not a main one. You also create the the global illuminate, no, the like thingy maggy, the box that we created. Oh my gosh, 30 minutes. It's a short term one though. Yep. Okay. Let's say this one. Oh, this is a tutorial or something. A trailer. Yeah, exactly. Quite a trailer.
And I spent the last 6 months doing research and building multiple prototypes. I ended up with 3 different projects that I believe perfectly teach the process of making awesome 2D top-down games in Unreal, and made an expansive 17-hour course to do everything step by step. Please check out the discount link in the description to get it. You might ask what exactly will be covered in this course. Well, I know you're probably most excited to know about. Here you'll learn the fundamentals of making 2D games in Unreal, such as importing assets, ideal project settings, and creating tile maps. You'll then implement top-down character movement and handle character animations and
create tile map from top down. Ah. Huh. Okay.
from scratch. Details such as proper layer sorting will also be covered. To close things out, you'll learn how to make a simple interaction system to open up treasure chests and talk to NPCs.
Gosh, we need to figure out how to make games for Moya as well. That would be insane, dude. Wait, is it? We're in Unreal Engine, so it should be completely automated kind of thing. All we need to do is choose export to Android and then dangerously run export that file into our Android phone and then just play it from there. Could we use BlueStacks actually? Right? And like plug it in. But I don't think BlueStacks is gonna have the like what connection to a USB from the laptop. Maybe. Actually, we can check. Yeah, we can actually search for it. BlueStacks, or rather, is BlueStacks the best Android emulator for Windows for PC? And it's getting cold, dude. So supposedly right now, forward shading is up, which means we can do global illumination. Oh, that's not it. There we go. Lumen. None. Oh, wait. We need to take a photo of that. So, hold on. Global illumination. And what's the other one? Oh gosh, I don't remember. But there was one that showed it. Oh, that's right. This one. No, this one. This one. This one. We need to add this one. Go on, dude. What the heck? There we go. Awesome. Add this one there. Yep, that's the cheat sheet, which we're also gonna give you a quick read. Do you say when you last updated it though? Doesn't seem. No, doesn't look like it. Private settings. Okay, let's go down, 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 down. Oh, down. Okay. I'm gonna guess you use translate for that. Google Translate. Popular pixel art in game. Right. Okay. Cool. I wanna pin it though. Awesome. Version control. Yeah, we leave that pin though. And make 2D.
8 directions, using and notifies to trigger hitboxes and much more. Melee combat is actually quite tricky to get right, and we'll cover details such as knockback, hit stop, sprite flashing, and player invincibility. We'll also create a pickup system so we can replenish health and pick up the bow and arrow. And all of that is going to work with the UI we create. To finish up the game loop, you'll learn how to create a wave-based spawn system for enemies. And that brings us to the last project in this course, which is the 2v3 hybrid RPG. I spent a long time getting this art style down for both the pixel art and the camera and post-process settings in the engine. These 3 characters who show up in the game are original creations by me, and you'll of course get all the necessary files. The map is an amazing asset from the permanently free collection on the Unreal Engine Marketplace or Steam Fab, which I'll show you how to download and add. We'll go over camera settings such as field of view and depth of field to create the distinct miniature look. Another big focus of this chapter are NPCs.
Okay, but I mean, this is just a trailer though. So.
Had a good answer until now. Over the last couple of months, I started to look into how to get rid of issues with aliasing and blurring.
Which is the best under which are all Unreal
Engine games. But I didn't do that research all on my own, and on top of very knowledgeable members in our Discord, the developers of Born of Bread, Wild Arts Games were also really helpful in
okay, other ones like Mimio.
and I'll give an explanation of how each of these affects our sprites. And at the end, I'll show you the combination of settings I came up with for my 2d3 hybrid scene and also my flat 2d scene. Let's get started. I created a new project with Unreal Engine 5.5, but I doubt much will change the settings in the future. And
Hold on there. And which of these emulators can I mean, worst case scenario, we just upload it to the internet and freaking download it from it, you know. Upload it to like our website and download it from there, right? That's how we test that. Yeah, that's how we have to test it, because you know we're gonna document it, which means it'll have to be on our website. Okay, I'm gonna copy the link though. Oh, it's still be in Windows, so they share the same clipboard, I guess. Okay. Awesome. Boyd is the best in performance. See that one. That was a big problem I had with BlueStacks, and that was something about layout and key binding something. I think it was the joystick. That was a bit weird. I don't remember what it was exactly. Best for performance, BlueStacks. Oh, this one very high. LD player, lightweight game optimization, gaming performance with low specs, easy of setup and game, general purpose, high performance, high FPS, mobile player. Why are there so many? lightweight design, and high gaming, particularly for popular games like continuous assurance mode with low CPU and RAM usage, so even for less robust PCs. Standard stability to achieve considering specific to gamers who seek gameplay supports advanced features like multi-instance play, which allows for running multiple games or accounts simultaneously without lag. Yeah, okay, do we need that though? I don't think so. It's literally overkill. Dude, that sounds like a tool for freaking bots. Machines. BlueStacks, a lot, while known for its extensive features and ease of use, offers solid gaming performance, a great middle ground for users who want both functionality and good speed. Okay, I think we're gonna go for the LD player range. I still need to like watch a review of it, you know. Let me write it down on the phone. Oops, that's fully charged. Check out LD player. Boom. Done. Awesome. So that was it. That was it. Cool. What is this? Oh right, the course.
Many of the games I used as a reference were still using Unreal Engine 4, so I was a bit worried this might not even be achievable in Unreal Engine 5. But after trying it with both UE 5.5 and UE 4.7, I didn't notice any big difference.
Why was it blueprints tutorials? Oh no, I'm not going to watch them right now. Void.
A few different assets from Villa for testing, with the Cobra robot being a free asset and the 2 Medieval Fantasy Pack being a paid asset on FAP. Some of these assets already came with the paper 2D texture settings applied, but I set everything back to the default values to have the same starting point you would with.
What is?
First, we're going to go through all of the related settings, and I'll give an explanation of how each of these affects our sprites. And at the end, I'll show you the combination of settings I came up with for my 2D 3D hybrid scene and also my flat 2D scene. Let's get started.
Oh damn! Oh damn! I'll take. Wait.
I'll show you the combination of settings I came up with.
Yeah.
For my 2D 3D scene and also my flat 2D scene. Let's get started.
Bruh. Well, I can see the background right there. You know, it kind of doesn't blend that well. So here's the ground, more or less. Right? Oh, okay. So this is the foreground. Here we have the ground along with these stones, and then we have the foreground, and then the background, and then the background, I guess.
I created a new project with Unreal Engine 5.5, but I doubt much will change with these settings in the future, and they should still be valid for a long time. Many of the games I used as a reference were still using Unreal Engine 4, so I was a bit worried this might not even be achievable in Unreal Engine 5. But after trying it with both UE 5.5 and UE 4.7, I didn't really notice any big difference. I then imported a few different assets from Douglas Avila for testing, with the Cobra robot being a free asset and the 2 Medieval Fantasy Pack being a paid asset on FAP. Some of these assets already came with the paper 2D texture settings applied, but I set everything back to the default values to have the same starting point you would when you just import a new texture into Unreal. In the texture viewer, you can see that all of these are very high quality and have a high resolution, but they don't look quite that nice in game. On the hybrid side, we can see many issues right away. Even though the edges look quite smooth and we don't see much aliasing, the colors seem to merge together in certain places, and we can see clear ghosting or after images. In the 2D scene from a far distance, things don't look too bad, but when paying close attention or zooming in, you can tell that there's also ghosting and things look blurry with the lines not being sharp either. When we switch into the unlit mode here, you can also see that we get visible aliasing or jagged lines around the edges of the character. Let's take care of these issues step by step by going through all of the related settings. The first thing we definitely want to turn off are auto exposure and motion blur. Auto exposure isn't specifically related to the problems with our sprites, but it scenes look very blown out and overexposed by mimicking the effect of your eyes adapting to changes in lighting conditions around you. In the project settings, I just look for exposure, turn auto exposure off, set the anti-bias to 0. Now both of these scenes just have more consistent lighting for better testing.
Yeah, just like standard. But this is 6 months ago, so it's way more updated than this settings over here. Okay, it's over here, and supposedly this is also following along this tutorial, you know. Build settings, auto exposure, exactly. Okay, cool. Yeah, I follow those ones. Oh, I'm gonna pay you here as well. Cool. There. Awesome. Could we create a folder within a folder? How interesting. Wait. It's actually don't go here. No. Yes. Because what I did for 2D template. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Let's close this one. We actually need to kind of save this one. So the PC doesn't restart. I'm still going to save it though. Save to save this. Unreal 2D setup. Cool. Save the file. And desktop. Yes, well, Windows, VS, OneNote, Maps. Nah. Okay. Guess here. 7 downloads. Save. Done. Cool. Also, I'm gonna change a bit my. So let's change all of this and this. Well, actually, I don't need any of this. Because say Windows, that's out. Create a folder called Game Dev. And anything related to Game Dev will go. Damn it, what happened? Don't tell me I just opened the game on my second monitor. How did I do that? I don't know what's going on though. Oh, that's just File Explorer being slow. Great. Great. That's just freaking awesome. I'm not sure what that one is though. And awesome. I think we could delete this one. I'm actually moving to the desktop. Awesome. Okay, cool. So, I'm gonna watch this. Well, this one's saved. Just make sure it is though. Last thing we need is for it not to be. Yep, there it is. That's fine. Cool. So I'm gonna go and get lunch. Dinner right now, and I'll be back to finish day 2. Cool. I'll leave that one on. I'm gonna give you a look after this. Cool. Awesome.
Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. We're all searching for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. We're all searching for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. We're all searching for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. We're all searching for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. But I keep on falling. Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on falling. show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost